Time to get to work. Wait, hold up. Wait a second. Who are you? I am the new headband. Aren't I the only one here, the headband? Well, you're fired, so I'm fired. What do you expect me to do? Well, why don't you go and kill yourself? Kill myself. Okay? And do it while doing a flip. That would be great. A flip. Yes. Well, I think here it goes. Yes. Goodbye, cruel world.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
Yee.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Eversense, the channel where everything may or may not make sense. I'm Nikhil Guru, this is my sister Vaishnavi.
Hello.
So today we have a very special guest with us. You know, in times like the COVID-19, mental health is a very huge issue for all of us. All of us are going a little bit crazy on the inside. So we have today, our guest is going to throw some light on the topic of mental health. May I please welcome Dr. Praveen. He's a psychiatrist. Everyone, please give him a huge round of applause. Hello, Doc. Welcome to the channel.
Hi, Nikhil, and hello, Vaishnavi. Thank you. And I'm so excited to be here and to see you guys do this. I think it's a very important thing and a very valuable work you're doing, actually. Thank you for inviting me.
An absolute honor to have you here. We would, shake your hand, offer you a cup of coffee, but as you can see, it's not really possible right now. So let's just start off the interview with a few basic questions. A lot of the viewers out here don't exactly know what a psychiatrist is. As a matter of fact, when me and Vaishnavi were researching for this interview, there was a lot of clouded doubt between the three names. Basically, a psychiatrist, a psychotherapist, and a therapist, basically, a psychologist, I'm sorry. So what exactly is it that you do and how do you differentiate yourself from these three very different categories?
I'm glad you asked this question because it's not uncommon that, when people do experience emotional pain or, any emotional issue or anything to do with mind, people are absolutely at loss. I mean, when you Google in saying I'm feeling sad, whom should I consult? And it might say a psychologist, a counselor, a therapist, a psychiatrist. So who should I go to? And who are all these people? I've never needed them in my life. We'll go slightly one step at a time. A counselor is anybody who can counsel, somebody who can advise you. So you have you at school, you might find a counselor. You might have somebody come in and says listen, I need some advice on it. I'm feeling a bit down. So counselor is somebody who's trained to give you advice and listen to you to a certain extent. And then comes the biggest group, the psychologists. So internationally, every nation has a way of training their psychologists. Psychologists in India come from arts background or other background or sciences background or mathematics these days. And they go through their post-graduation in psychology. That's behavioral sciences, understanding human mind and how mind works. They understand the gears and the mechanisms of the mind and how we operate within societies amongst people. So they understand the behaviors of people. And then you have psychiatrists. So who's a psychiatrist? Oh yes, I mean you call them the shrink, or you call them whatever it is, or you call the mind doctor or whatever it is. So these are people who have completed their basic medical graduation. So they're doctors per se. Psychiatrists are doctors basically, and they're trained to give medication if necessary, and also they also have the ability to interview, diagnose, treat, prescribe, and also advise. And some psychiatrists, they become psychotherapists as well. Some psychologists also can become psychotherapists, and some psychiatrists also decide to go into purely what you call as a talking treatment thing. So we have this group of psychiatrists who are doctors, psychologists who come from varied backgrounds, but they can, if they do a PhD, they can become doctors, but that's a doctorate. Yes, and you have the counselors who have experience, they bring in their advisory experiences into lives of people and they help people out. And then there is this other group called life coaches who provide coaching and other services. So they are a different group altogether. Does that clarify your question?
Absolutely, Doc. It's actually a very vast field. I'm very glad that you were able to short it down and make everybody understand. Now, you are a psychiatrist, basically. That's your profession. And as of now, the COVID-19 pandemic is unprecedented in terms of how people have actually gone back into their homes. Now, people nowadays, especially after the whole Sushant Singh Rajput incident, where everyone said he was depressed, he was undergoing a lot of treatment and therapy, many people have understand that it's not only the physical problems that actually take a toll on the human body, but it's the mental issues as well. So compared to the olden days, what do you think has changed that has made the necessity of psychiatrists or psychotherapists so increasingly necessary in the present day society?
I think during the older days, this is my personal opinion based on observation and some data, evidence. In older days, there was need, but there was lack of awareness because depression was there earlier as well. And depression is there even now. Now we are more conscious, more aware. And the support structures which were present in the older days, like we had joint families, which could absorb the extended families. Like the older grandmother would say, when this thing happened, I did this, it helped. And, there was a space to converse. There was a narrative, an experiential narrative which could help people to recover within their milieu. When you, in a village, if you're living in a village or in a society which is everybody knows everybody or everybody knows somebody, if there was pain, people would have picked it up and said, what's happening? And somebody would talk to, and then you could talk about your udasi inside pain. When you move into an urbanized place, these days we don't know our neighbor even. Forget about somebody in the village, we don't know our neighbor. So there is something called anomie sets in. Anomie is about lack of oneness or identity with the rest of the world. That namelessness. I would specifically talk about Sushant's case, but there are lots of people who are going through what Sushant might have gone through. And this is more a reason that we should seek out, ask for help and talk more often. Because COVID, COVID has brought in this interesting dynamic wherein we are stuck within four walls for some people. And some people, they're working from home, and some people are forced to go to work as well. That's where people either are forced to, or there is lots of, moral calling or guilt associated to go and do it, or there is a sense of higher purpose and meaning and people go to work. So this is an occasion wherein there is a need for lots of human cohesion, positive energy to be built in. And there are lots of positive stories which are emerging as well. We are seeing people going out of the way to help people out, spending the last penny to help a stranger on the street, So lots of good is happening. We are seeing a very beautiful side of humanity while there are troubled times. I think we should cherish that human values, humanity, which is happening around the good stories and the stories of victory. Yes, there is pain happening, but this is the time to be positive, energetic, and then go and win the world.
Absolutely, Doc. And we can both agree that COVID-19 has brought out both the worst in the world and the best in the world. So it's actually quite ironic to say that COVID-19 is a disease that requires people to be around, and at the same time you don't need people around you at the same time. So here's the kicker. Actually, I have met a few families that don't support this idea of going to a therapist and actually getting their mental state evaluated. I have seen some families where, a child will come out and say, I don't know, I'm feeling down, I'm not having a mood, despite having all those shock absorbers that you were stating about earlier, and yet the family just, waves it away. It's like, it's a mood, you're a teenager, you're going through the motions. Like, for example, take my family, for example. I have a sister, she's absolutely crazy. So if I go out and tell my mom, there's something wrong with my sister, she's irritating me too much, and then she's just going to wave it off. And while this issue might not exactly be serious, in the long scale, there might actually be people who need help, who are being stopped by their families. How do you destigmatize that idea that psychiatrists are bad people, that going to mental therapy is a bad thing? Because what I've seen is you go out to a psychotherapist, and the second you do, people are like, oh my God, he's mental. He probably has substance abuse. He probably is going through depression. He has anxiety. And how do you destigmatize that and get more people to actually get the medication that they need? Because my sister is definitively crazy. She needs help.
No, I'm not.
No, you're not. Okay.
I'm not crazy.
Okay. See, that's what I mean.
You should ask her what she thinks of you.
Okay, the doc is asking, what do you think of me?
You are a great brother. I have a lot of fun with you. And I can irritate you.
And, okay, so I allow you to irritate you. Give me the truth. Give me the actual truth, please.
That's the truth. You also help me with homework, which I'm really happy and grateful for. And, yeah.
Yes, so apparently I am the villain in this situation. But coming back to the question, what do you think? How do you
the stigma.
Yes, the stigma.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this very valid thing, especially for a country like ours. Stigma has been there, especially going and seeing, the mind doctor or the psychiatrist, because people always believe, oh God, this guy's got a bit soft in the head. That's a very bizarre thing. And or iska screw deela ho gaya. That's what people say in our country. That's very sad indeed. Or people use the word like crazy. That's a very thing, like for people that's something which drains away energies of people who are experiencing any sad thing. I can see the brother and sister banter. That's lovely to see. I'm sure my sister would enjoy the same degree of banter. But the whole seriousness of the issue of stigma in India and rest of the world, Royal College of Psychiatrists ran a campaign way back, like 20 years ago, to say 1 in 4 campaign. That's like 2 decades or more or less. So 1 in 4 people have mental health issues. That's a huge number. So if I'm walking out of the door, I might have bumped into 10 people who have mental health issues before I got in the car. Mental illness or psychological illness are same as anything else. Somebody develops a sore throat. We call it, there is a strep infection of the throat, and take an antibiotic for 3 weeks. Depression is no different. It is an illness like any other illness. Anxiety is an illness like any other illness. Schizophrenia is an illness like any other illness. And it's not something you invite into, or you pull up your socks now. You be strong now, chin up now. This is what people say in this regular thing. People have this thing depression is something which I invite into my life. Depression is something which I get it because I don't do my yoga. No, not always. Depression needs medicines. Sometimes talking and supportive work will be good enough. For some, there might be a need for medication. For some who are very, very unwell, who are at risk of hurting themselves or hurting somebody because they're going through very difficult times or severe emotional pain, they might say, all right, why don't you get into hospital for a brief while? If there is a complicated fracture, we'll say, all right, you need to go to a hospital, we need to set it right, you need to stay in the hospital for a couple of days. A broken limb, if I say no, sir, tika, and then I just move my hand around it, you cannot move your hand around. And then people have this, and if somebody develops diabetes, if somebody is diabetic, exercising helps, we know that. But you don't stop your medication. As much as a diabetic needs treatment for their condition, mental illness needs medication or treatment or psychotherapy or talking treatments for their condition. These are all part of the treatment program. That doesn't mean that somebody is off their rockers. And this big fear, somebody has psychological and they're dangerous. No, we have data saying that people with psychological problems are actually less likely to harm somebody else than the people otherwise. People on the street are more likely to do when you see people having road rage. They are people without so-called psychological problems. They go about hurting each other. And people who are having psychological problems, they're troubled themselves. So when somebody talks about sadness, I think we should listen. Let's learn to, as young people, because we are so scared, because, it feels so real and it feels so scary. So people are scared about their inner vulnerabilities. So let's talk more often. So I'd say you guys are doing, we're talking today. So let's talk more. Let's be more aware. Let's be more sensitive. Let's be more kind. And the keyword I'd say, let's be more empathic. Empathy is the key.
A few inches later.